I still remember the day I met her at Chicago Beach. It was a sunny day, and I had decided to go for a swim to clear my mind. As I was walking along the shore, I saw her standing by the water's edge, her beautiful dark skin glistening in the sunlight. She was wearing a traditional African dress, and her twisted hair was blowing gently in the breeze. I was immediately drawn to her, and I couldn't help but stare. As an army commander who has been deployed to various parts of the world, I've seen my fair share of beautiful women, but there was something about her that caught my attention. As I approached her, she turned around and smiled, and I was struck by her beauty. She introduced herself as Rose, and we started talking. She told me she was from West Africa, and I was fascinated by her culture. We chatted for hours, and before I knew it, the sun was setting. I asked her if she'd like to grab some dinner with me, and she agreed. Over the next few months, we kept in touch, chatting back and forth on the phone and online. I learned more about her culture and traditions, and I was captivated by her stories. She loved wearing traditional African dresses, and her beauty shone through in every aspect of her being. She wore beads around her neck and waist, which added to her exotic charm. Her twisted hair was a sight to behold, and I loved the way she styled it. As our relationship deepened, I decided to bring her to Los Angeles to live with me in my mansion. She was hesitant at first, but eventually agreed. When she arrived, I was amazed by how beautiful she looked in my home. We spent our days exploring the city together, going on vacations to exotic destinations like Hawaii and Paris. We had a wonderful time, and our love continued to grow. I introduced Rose to my army friends, including Paul, who was not deploying with me to Gaza. Since Paul wasn't going on deployment, I asked him if he could drive Rose to Walmart on weekends to help her with her groceries. He agreed, and they became close friends. However, as my deployment date approached, I started to feel a sense of unease. I had received a letter from the army informing me that I would be deploying to Gaza soon. I was worried about leaving Rose behind, but I knew that Paul would be there to take care of her. As I prepared for my deployment, Rose and Paul grew closer. They would spend hours talking on the phone, and Paul would often take Rose out for drives or to run errands for her. At first, I didn't think much of it, but as time went on, I started to feel a pang of jealousy. One day, while going through some photos on Paul's social media account, I saw pictures of Rose and Paul together in my hot tub and swimming pool. They were both laughing and having a great time, but there was something about the photos that made me feel uneasy. I tried to brush off my feelings of jealousy, telling myself that Paul was just being a good friend. But as the days went by, my suspicions grew. I started to suspect that Rose might be cheating on me with Paul. As my deployment continued, I found it increasingly difficult to shake off the feeling that something was going on between Rose and Paul. The thought consumed me, making it hard for me to focus on my duties. As an army commander, I was used to being in control and making tough decisions, but the thought of Rose cheating on me with Paul was eating away at me. I tried to push it out of my mind, but it lingered in the back of my thoughts, making it difficult for me to concentrate on my work. I found myself wondering if I had made a mistake by leaving Rose behind and trusting Paul to take care of her. As the days turned into weeks, my suspicions continued to grow. I started to think about all the times Paul had taken Rose out for drives or to run errands for her. Had they been alone together? Had they been intimate? The more I thought about it, the more I became convinced that something was going on between them. I felt a pang of jealousy every time I thought about it, and it was starting to affect my relationships with my fellow soldiers. One day, while on patrol, I received a message from Paul. He told me that Rose was doing well and that he was taking good care of her. But as I read his message, I couldn't help but feel that he was trying to reassure me of something. Was he trying to cover his tracks? I started to feel like I was losing control, and it was frustrating. As the deployment dragged on, my feelings of jealousy and mistrust continued to simmer. I knew I had to do something to address the situation, but I wasn't sure what. Should I confront Rose and Paul when I got back? Or should I just let it go and move on? The uncertainty was eating away at me. I decided to do some digging and gather more information before making any decisions. I started by looking into Paul's background, trying to see if there was anything that could indicate whether he was capable of cheating or not. As I dug deeper, I discovered that Paul had a history of being a bit of a ladies' man. The more I learned about Paul's past, the more I became convinced that he was not trustworthy. But what about Rose? Was she an innocent victim, or was she complicit in whatever was going on? The question swirled in my head as I struggled to make sense of the situation. As the days turned into months, my deployment finally came to an end. I was relieved to be heading back home, but I was also anxious about what I would find when I got there. Would Rose be waiting for me with open arms, or would she be with Paul? The uncertainty was killing me. When I finally arrived back at my mansion, I was greeted by Rose, who looked as beautiful as ever. She seemed happy to see me, and we hugged each other tightly. But as we pulled back, I couldn't help but notice that she seemed a bit nervous. Was she hiding something from me? I decided to play it cool and not confront her right away. Instead, I asked her how she had been doing while I was away. She told me that she had been fine and that Paul had been taking good care of her. But as she spoke, I noticed that she avoided eye contact, which made me even more suspicious. As we spent more time together, I started to notice little things that didn't add up. Rose seemed distant at times, and when I asked her about it, she just brushed it off. But I knew what I had seen in those photos, and it still lingered in my mind. Then Paul finally asked if he could move in with us. Oh, I now know they're cheating. What is the meaning of this?